Hey guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead bringing you Phantom Knights. This is a level 3 Dark Warrior Xyz spam deck that focuses on turn 1 interrupting the opponent with searchable interruption and turn 2 OTKing, both of which with really solid follow-up. How the deck achieves its win condition is all of the Phantom Knights have some method of getting you access to more of the archetype via their graveyard effects. The main one, Ancient Cloak, you can banish it from your graveyard to search for one of your other two Phantom Knights, like Ragged Gloves or Silent Boots. While Ragged Gloves, you can banish this one from the graveyard to send any other Phantom Knight card from your deck to your graveyard. That says Phantom Knight card. That could be other monsters or spell traps. Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. This one's great for double utility because this actually special summons itself from your hand if you control a Phantom Knight, and also you can banish it from the grave to search for a spell trap. So you might notice that the only Phantom Knight spell trap in the deck is Phantom Knight's Wing. This one, you know, it's solid enough. It just says target a face-up monster on the field, it gains 500 attack. That's a permanent boost, by the way. Also, the first time that target would be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn, it is not destroyed. So it could protect your monster from destruction. But what we're really using it for is you can banish it from the graveyard and then revive one of your Phantom Knights from grave. So this is great for extension or keeping yourself alive, or even for an OTK play. If this was the only trap in the deck, then who cares that we can search for it, right? It's not even that good. It's decent, right? But it's not that good. What's great about this deck is its skill. The skill actually makes it incredibly playable in Duel Links. So the benefits of the skill are actually twofold. First of all, to activate the skill, you have to discard a Phantom Knight from your hand, which is actually a plus because you'll actually be able to get off the Phantom Knight grave effects. Second of all, you're going to be able to put Phantom Knight's Fogblade at the bottom of the deck. And what's great about that is it's the other trap in the deck. It's actually better than Phantom Knight's Wing because it will target a face-up effect monster, negate its effects, and prevent it from attacking or being attacked. So we could search that with Boots instead. And we can just use this to like send to the grave with Ragged Gloves just as a follow-up play. What's great about Fogblade is you can also banish it from grave to have the same revival effect as Knight's Wing. So often what we're going to do turn 1 is we're going to use a skill to discard one of our 3 Phantom Knights to put that trap at the bottom of our deck. Then we're going to summon 2 level 3s by some method. This deck has a lot of ways in which to do that. Then we're going to turn those 2 into any of the rank 3s, right? To somehow get Boots in the grave, use Boots' grave effect to search for that trap so that we have an interruption on our opponent's turn and a way to survive. Of course, searching turn 1 for a monster negate is really nice, but also what's great about this deck is its going second capabilities are arguably better because we have the Xyz, the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, which is kind of like a scrap dragon, right? Once per turn you can detach a material, then target one card you control and one other card on the field and destroy them. And what's great about that is if it is destroyed, including by its own effect, you can target 2 leveled monsters that are part of the Phantom Knight archetype and re-summon them and also increase their levels by 1. And since we are all level 3s, right? If we have 2 level 3s in the grave, we re-summon them and they become level 4, allowing us to go into rank 4 plays, which can help us to break the board even further. Essentially gone over the inherent things that the archetype can do. Let me just go over the generic non-archetype things, right? So Kagemucha Knight is a muster of 3 in my opinion. If you normal summon a level 3 monster, you can special summon it from your hand. It can't be used for synchro, but this is an Xyz deck. So essentially this is going to be your additional extender on top of Silent Boots because this deck kind of lacks extension inherently. Reinforcement of the army because we want to see at least 2 warriors in our hands at the beginning of the game at all times. If we were able to play more, I feel like I should be playing more, but this is kind of the maximum amount of monsters that we can be playing at this moment, unfortunately. 6 back row removal cards because back row removal is probably one of the best things that you can be doing in this current format. A lot of decks have searchable interruptive back row that we'd like to be able to get rid of. So things like Book of Moon aren't as viable as they used to be just because so many decks can play through it like it's nothing. And Link monsters can't even be affected by it. Warning Point is of course also a very good card. I only have one right now. You could play more if you wanted, but you should not replace Phantom Knight's Wing. You should probably replace the Cosmics or something. The skill, the turn that you use it, will prevent you from being able to summon from the extra deck 4 or higher Xyz monsters, except for Dark Dragons for whatever reason. But it's okay because the character that we're playing this with, his ace monster happens to be exactly that, Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, so it's kind of like the intended function of the skill in the first place, essentially just trying to get this out. But if we do it turn 1, right, we could do this on the follow-up turn later on. But what Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon does is you can detach 2 materials from it, target your opponent's monster, it becomes half of its current attack, and then this will gain the attack that the opponent's monster lost permanently. Have Malevolent Sin. If we're doing this on the follow-up turn, it'll just, of course, you'll detach a material, target your opponent's monster, and banish it until the end phase. This is just great for going for game. Steel Swarm Roach is not a card that I go into very often. However, there are going to be situations where I'm not going to be able to attack for game, but I am going to be able to summon a rank 4. And in those cases, I can summon Roach depending on the opponent's deck, just to be able to prevent them from going for some big synchro summons or something like that. Leviather Sea Dragon is something that we summon almost every turn 1, because we're always going to be banishing something from our own graveyard to get some searches of. So it's going to be good to be able to get that monster back, not only to have it into rotation, but it'll also give us a little bit more survivability. It might also be great for extension plays if our hand is monster based. In the late game, if we happen to be able to make a rank 3, Nightmare Shark is often going to be great, just for attacking for a 2k, directly ignoring the fact that they have monsters on the field. Dante is something that we don't go into often. You could technically cut this, you don't have to play it if you don't own it, but it is good just sometimes if we don't have any other way to get Silent Boots into the graveyard. And of course we do play 2 Phantom Knights of Breaksword, because we are very often going to be summoning both copies. If you wanted to play any different back row, that's completely fine. However, I would recommend playing at least 3 back row removal, and I would also recommend not cutting the Phantom Knight's Wing. I do see a lot of people playing different Phantom Knight traps, or a plentitude of Phantom Knight traps that don't even have good effects. Realistically, I don't even want to have Phantom Knight's Wing in the deck. If I could have it outside of the deck and be able to send it directly to the grave, I would love to do that. It's not actually a good card to draw. I'd much rather have cards that actually help me establish a game state, rather than a card that will gain me 500 attack. That's not a very good effect, and it is kind of the best effect out of all the Phantom Knight traps we have. We're never really going to need more than this Phantom Knight trap and the trap that we get from the skill. So the fact that people can play up to like 5 Phantom Knight traps doesn't make much sense to me. The deck is a lot of fun. It's a really good control-based deck. And let's get into the gameplay, shall we? So I've opened an all monster hand, as you can see, because this does represent a monster here. So I'm of course going to use it to search for the one warrior that I don't currently have access to. First move is always to activate the skill, so we can get that trap into the deck. And I discard this and normal summon this, and then I chain this to summon it right. I use Ragged Gloves to send my Silent Boots. I'm doing this first, and then I'm going to go right into my Leviair, after searching the trap, of course. The main thing is I'm trying to get things into the banish pile to get some value off of my Leviair. I'm going to discard the Phantom Knights, of course, because this is not a Phantom Knight, it doesn't have a graveyard effect. I'm going to send this one, because it does have a grave effect that I have not used yet. I'm going to resummon the Ragged Gloves, going to special summon the Boots, going to go into Breaksword. Gloves also has an effect that if it's once per turn, if it's used for an Xyz summon of a dark monster, then that monster will gain the effect to gain 1000 attack permanently. I will have a follow-up search, and I'll set my back row, and I'll end my turn. And I have a monster negate, and this can be a follow-up. It doesn't do anything on the opponent's turn, but if it survives, I get to summon one of my Phantom Knights back. And then this, if it dies, I'm going to be able to summon its materials back as level 4. So he's playing Ice Barriers. I'm going to wait till he discards a card, and then I'm going to negate him, so he loses value. Thankfully for him, he does have the God Hand, so he's going to be able to get his Trishula play off. He's pretty much getting rid of my entire field here, but I do have a lot of graveyard follow-up. He is unable to get lethal here, and that's his biggest issue. But if he was able to get lethal, I did at least have the Fog Blade to protect my life points. So I'm going to use that Fog Blade now, resummon my boots, special summon my other boots, go into Break Sword, break his monster. His monster is going to float into the original Trishula, but that Trishula won't get its effect because it was special summon, not synchro summon. Of course, I will be able to resummon both of my boots, and they will become level 4. I'm going to be able to go into Malevolent Sin. It'll gain 1000 attack, and I'm going to be able to banish his Trishula. Ragged Gloves is going to get me my Wing into the graveyard. This is the main reason I use Wing. Wing is going to banish from grave, resummon my Break Sword, and attack for game. That is the main focus of the traps in the deck. They're not necessarily meant to be used on the field, except for Fog Blade. They're kind of just meant to be used as methods by which to extend, survive, or go for game. So my opponent's playing Harpies. They seem to have the full combo. Just going off, you know what I mean? Setting a back row, adding something back. On my turn, I'm just going to quickly get rid of that back row. I'm going to use the skill first of all, putting Ancient Cloak in the grave, then using the Ancient Cloak to search for my gloves. I'm going to summon the gloves, summon my boots, going to my Break Sword. Here I'm getting rid of the low level monster because I am trying to attack for game here, and I can't do that if I'm attacking over a defense monster. I'm going to go for my level 4s, go for my rank 4, detach my materials to reduce him, then use boots to send... Sorry, I'm using boots to get Fog Blade, and then I'm going to use Ragged Gloves to send my other trap. Then I'm going to attack, use my wings, to revive my Break Sword and attack for game. So as you can see, this happened 2 games in a row. This is kind of like a very common thing you can do in the deck. Alright, so I'm playing against Dark Magician. I send Ancient Cloak. I usually send Ancient Cloak so I can kind of like replace it immediately. Unless I already have everything. So I search what I don't have. I chain Kagemucha Knight. I go into my Leviair the Sky Dragon, detach the Phantom Knight instead of the Kagemucha, resummon my cloak, summon my boots, go into Break Sword. I'm not using the effect, of course, because there's nothing to break. I'm going to send another copy of boots so that boots can go ahead and search for my interruption, and I'm going to have 2 back row here. By the way, whenever I search for the trap, I try to set my my other back row first so that they think that that is the Fog Blade. It's just a little bit of a mind game. It's not going to work a lot of the time, but I think most of the time it works for me at least. But yeah, this guy's just playing Dark Magician. I'm going to chain to a circle so it doesn't resolve. Well, it resolves without effect. He's going to go ahead and summon his illusion. I'm going to negate it because he does definitely need his Dark Magician. Thankfully for him, he does have the knowledge. Must be nice, but he doesn't draw into what he needs. And that's GG. My opponent is playing Rose Dragons here. Very powerful deck. Of course, still to this day. Even if it isn't tiered, it's on ranked, it's a lot better than it is in tournaments. Just because it's very good to side into. Like I mean, it's easy to side into. Thankfully for me, I do have 2 back row removals in my hand. That is a big part of what this deck is trying to do here. So what Zeta does, if you're unaware, is it can quick effect banish itself to also banish one of my attack position special summon monsters. So you're going to notice that until I get rid of that, I'm only going to special summon in defense position. So normal summon here so it's safe, special summon in defense, special summon in defense, destroy both mine and yours. Then I can resummon my guys, Here I'm not able to go for game just because of the way things went. He is going to be able to follow up, which is great for him. But he isn't going to be able to attack for game, so I'm going to be able to follow up again. So of course I am able to send the wing, revive a boots. He's DD crawling me. I don't have a follow-up, so I'm just going to let him go. Thankfully for me, he top decks MST, so he still can't kill me. I top deck another monster, so I can go for game here. He only has 15 life points, so I can just attack directly with Nightmare Shark. GG. Alright, my opponents are Blackwings, they're going first. Blackwings can actually be very good going second. This guy's just trying to go second. Yeah, my bad, guys. They can be very good going first, as you might see in one of my previous videos. However, this guy seems to not want to be good going second, so he's only summoning Pixie Dragon going first, which doesn't actually do anything. So here, I'm just going to combo off. Uninterrupted pretty much. I'm not going to be able to go for game, but it's not going to be that big of a deal for me. I'm just going to get rid of his whirlwind to prevent his follow-up. Go into my Xyz Dragon, reduce him, get a follow-up and an interruption. Set my back row, of course, getting rid of his field spell. There's really nothing he can do here. As you see, he gets Black Whirlwind, he normal summons his monster, but I'm going to be able to get rid of it with my Cosmic. He has a level 1 tuner anyway. I warning point it so he can't Synchro Summon, and he scoops. My opponent's playing Odd Eyes here. They're going to have the Search, they're going to be able to set up their scales. Going to Pendulum Summon, of course. Get everything off. They're going to go into Roll of Fernigus and set a back row. So I have a very monster hand. I don't have any back row removal, which is a little bit unfortunate for me. So he's going to be able to prevent me from with his Roll of Fernigus and whatever back row that happens to be. So I'm going to go for Kagomichanite. He's going to Roll of Fernigus me, destroying my monster. I am going to be able to get my trap at least. So I will at least have 2 back row, but he is going to MST my warning point. He happens to top deck Spiral Flame Strike. If he had searched for another monster to Pendulum Summon, I would have been able to Fog Blade whatever it was. But he decides to destroy it anyway, so it would have been the same regardless. He would have only had 2 monsters to attack with regardless. So regardless, I was going to at least survive. But here I am able to go full combo now that he has no interruptions left. That's what's great, is if I can survive with this deck, which is this deck's greatest strength, then I can at least OTK him next turn. Yeah, I was about to go onto a rank 3, he knows what's up, so he scoops. But this deck is a lot better now that it has reinforcement of the army, and now that Book of Moon isn't, and Floodgate as well, aren't as good as they were before. The format is just a really good place for this deck to come back. You know, just because before, like in previous formats, we had a bunch of cards that just stopped this deck from being able to be good. Now those cards aren't valid anymore. This deck can sneak back in. As you can see, it's really good. I got a 14-game win streak, and you know, go ahead and play the deck yourself. Let me know how you guys feel about it. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time.